Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 37th episode of the EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. We're a couple of weeks on from the biggest race of the year, the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals at the Rio All Suites Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. That was the November 14th to 18th weekend there, so a couple of weeks ago. We've gone through Thanksgiving already. It was pretty crazy. Obviously, Supernats are hardcore, 9 in the morning to 9 or 10, 11 at night. We kind of decompressed a bit for Thanksgiving. I gave David some time off to relax a little bit. We went through a week last week. So this debrief, a little late, of course, but mainly because I think we've all been taking things in and getting caught back up. David Cole, I'll bring you in a second. First off, Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, the presenting sponsor of our show here this week. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy offers custom coaching programs for newcomers and experienced racers alike. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. So the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, they were our title sponsor of our EKN Live broadcast that went through Thursday afternoon, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. David Cole, are you rested up? I'm rested, thankfully. I slept a ton after Supernats, man. That was a long, long week.
Well, it takes a full week just for your body to not only acclimate from the time change, but the amount of work that goes into doing the Super Nationals, whether it's, the at-track stuff that we do all week long or the after-track stuff that we do all week long as well, too.
Well, yeah, having some fun there. I didn't have near as much party time as I do in the past. I think we were so busy, we hit the ground running on Monday. You rolled in on Tuesday. Right into all the social media coverage we did. We did a lot of social media stuff, really leveraged Instagram and Instagram stories, had a lot of really good feedback on that. We did our regular Trackside Live coverage, which is, as always, presented by Cooper Tire. Big thanks to the folks at Cooper Tire for being our EKN Trackside Live Tour sponsors for 2018. And then, David, we decided as we were cleaning up on, I think it was Thursday night or Friday night, we decided we were going to do our first Q&A, live Facebook Q&A. We did 2 of those outside, and then we finally came up with the brilliant idea that sitting outside in 40-degree weather, shivering, when it was a perfectly good warm bar we could hit. Then we did that. That was, we did that for almost an hour every night. So, we weren't done until about 9:30 or 10. And in fact, we waited for dinner till after the Q&A. So the nights and days were long for sure. But David, it's the Supernats, and we do it once a year. And man, this year was a really good one. I think overall, this one was a really good one.
It was. I think from start to finish, it was really good. Not only just being back at the Rio, but on-track activity was phenomenal. Again, always when you have full fields like that with the amount of talent in each category that we had, you're going to get good racing. And the paddock worked well, with the limited space that we do have at the Rio compared to where we were at last year. I think everything seemed to work out great. Just from our perspective, didn't hear any complaints. So that was a good thing, other than, maybe the occasional long walk here or there to get to somebody's pit. But, I think there's still room to grow looking at where we're at.
I don't disagree with you. Perfect weather conditions. We've gone through some pretty crappy ones before where it was super cold, or I think it was 2013, I believe, whatever the year was, or 2013, where it poured rain and it was just absolutely miserable for everybody until we got to Super Sunday. Perfect weather conditions, mid-60s, low 70s during the day. Got a little chilly at night, but you have to just prep for that. As you said, David, the paddock was absolutely massive, and they actually overflowed well out into the north side of the facility. There's another parking lot, which is, I think, actually for staff at the Rio. And man, that in years past, there was a couple trailers up there. This year, absolutely completely packed. But like you said, still probably some more room to jam some more teams in. The question is just whether or not there's enough time each day and in the week to do it. It's just, we're already jam packed morning and night from Wednesday on.
Well, I think there's areas where they can grow. Obviously, there's some that weren't exactly sold out. I mean, I could see at least 20 entries that we can include into the classes we have now and maybe be sold out in a couple of them. So, again, there's room to grow. Obviously, not grow as in adding another session for classes. I don't think that's doable at all. As you said, we're time wise, we're maxed out. The staff is maxed out, the schedule's maxed out. It's a busy week, but to be able to cram 532 entries in for the week and be the largest since 2013, when you said we had that terrible weather week, it's pretty good numbers.
Yeah, 507 last year, 458 the year before, 489 with just 9 classes, a tighter class structure in 2015. Same for 2014, 9 classes, 517, and then 602, the high water mark in 2013. But that was with 12 classes. That's when the Rotax World Finals, Grand Finals, were actually held in New Orleans. And SCUSA getting together with Max Speed at that point, offering a couple of fully subscribed Rotax classes. So 602, but with 12 classes, as you said. David, by the numbers, pretty impressive overall. I think, the lowest class total was Master Shifter at 35, along with KA100 Junior. But for the most part, Micro really kind of stepped it up this year. 41 in Micro, 53 in Mini Swift. 35, as we said, in K100. And then the X30 classes, man, 77 in junior, 75 in master, and 87 in senior. The X30 stuff is just strong when it comes to Supernats.
We knew the X30 categories were going to be among the largest, obviously with the cap at 88. Again, there's still room to get there for junior and master. But like you said, micro was an increase from last year. I think we maybe had 20-some, maybe in the 30s, but to be 41, that's good to see for the future for Supercards USA. The Mini was only at 53, which is kind of shocking with the amount of numbers that we've seen in the past where this category has sold out, I believe, before. So, again, room to grow, which is, I hate to say, you don't want to change things, but as we've seen coming up in 2019, things might change. For Supernats, we don't know.
It'll be interesting. Obviously, the Master Shifter and Pro Shifter, the combination of S4, Master and Supermaster, and then S1 and S2 respectively. That was a big change because I brought everybody together. 50 drivers and Pro Shifter, that was pretty cool. Again, what are we going to see in 2019? We get back to the Rio next November. Obviously, the biggest change is going to be the introduction of the IAME SSE 175cc shifter engine. We'll talk more about that later in the show. But stay with us, folks. More to come on the other side of this break. We are going to jump into the paddock pass, chat a little bit about what happened in the paddock, not on the racetrack.
Hello, karting fans. This is IndyCar driver Zach Veach, and you're locked into the EKN Radio Network.
What results do you need to prove the competitiveness of a chassis? Whatever your answer, Illuminos has it covered. Race wins? Check. Illuminos wins everywhere. SCUSA Pro Tour, California and Texas Pro Kart Challenge, LAKC Tri-C Karters. They win. Championships? Check and check. Billy Musgrave and John Crow dominated the California Pro Kart Challenge action in S1 and S4 Supermaster, winning their titles. Crow went one better and won the SCUSA Pro Tour title as well. All told, Illuminos won a dozen championships in 2018. Our Illuminos chassis has been developed for the US market, but it's still fully homologated for use across the world. The design features an innovative waist torsion system that provides unparalleled chassis tuning. The kart is completed with magnesium components, and it's the only manufacturer offering 100% ceramic brakes. American design, Italian manufactured, built for karting in the United States. That's Illuminos. We're also a title-winning Arrive and Drive team that competes in the SCUSA Pro Tour and the California Pro Kart Challenge, and we'll be hitting the road in 2019 to compete in some of the biggest races on the East Coast. Run with a team that races to win and enjoys the journey. Illuminos, give us a call today. Are you looking for a new kart shop? One that treats you like you're an important customer? If so, look no further than Acceleration Kart Racing. At Acceleration, customer service is number one. We are a full-time karting business, not a hobby or an afterthought. We have all the products you're looking for, from kid karts to shifters, safety to speed. We strive to offer our customers the best products, prices, and service. At Acceleration Kart Racing, we're always here when you need something for your racing program. Located in Las Vegas, Acceleration is stocked with a wide range of products. We've been helping racers get the right parts for over 16 years. Acceleration has everything that a kart racer needs, from turnkey karts to safety equipment, engines, and more, stocking all of the leading kart racing brands. Here's a taste of the products that we carry every day. CRG, Tony Kart, Bennett, Rotax, Honda, Miami, MG Tires, Vinco, Bridgestone, Mojo, Alpine Stars, Sparco, Ribtech, and EVS, Tillett, Micron, Alfano, Bell, Arai, Zamp, KG, Sniper, SweetTech, and K&N. It doesn't matter where you live in the country. We will get you what you need so you can get back on the track. Acceleration has a sufficient supply of products to ensure that your order can be shipped the very same day. Our knowledgeable staff is available to help customers 6 days a week, and ordering online is open 24 hours a day at shopakr.com. For visitors and locals in the Las Vegas area, Acceleration has a large showroom full of the best kart racing products available. Come on in and check it out. To find out more about what Acceleration has to offer, visit shopakr.com. Again, shopakr.com. And make sure to sign up to be on our mailing list to receive the latest updates and promotions that we send throughout the season. Again, we're a one-stop shop. shopakr.com.
Hello, karting fans. This is Gabby Chavez, and you're locked into the EKN Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 37 of our EKN Debrief. David Cole and I, Rob Howden, breaking down this year's SuperKarts USA Super Nationals, the 22nd running of the great race, back at the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada this year. Let's jump now into the Paddock Pass, this particular edition of the Paddock Pass presented by CRG Nordam. If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. After years of independent American importers, CRG Nordam is now managed directly by the factory and run out of their state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nordam is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and they're serious about success. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nordam is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too. So, David, first and foremost, obviously everybody waits for it when they pull the cover off, roll down onto the racetrack. It's the track walk on Tuesday evening. Let's talk about the track layout. Third time design for Bonner Moulton and Howie Idelson, the second for Wesley Boswell, who was brought in last year. First time for all three of them to design a track at the Rio, and the first time ever at the Rio, we've gone counterclockwise.
Yeah, it's, when they came out Halloween with the track layout, everybody's kind of, positive about it. And then the track gets built and seeing the photos through Saturday, Sunday, and Monday from the top of the Rio or from people's hotel room of the actual track construction, then you kind of get an idea, okay, what is this track actually looking like? So, there's always mixed views once that happens. And then as you said, you do the track walk Tuesday, and then you get a more in-depth look at it. But really, until karts hit the track on Wednesday, you don't really know what the track's going to be. And then you don't know how the track really is going to be when race conditions until you start racing.
You look at the layout, kind of a mixture of the tracks, the designs that we had at the Las Vegas Convention Center, the opening couple of corners, which was essentially turn 12, 1 and 2, those hairpins, very similar to what we had at Las Vegas Convention Center. Some of the old Rio tracks kind of brought in there as well, it felt like, with some of the corners. David, I think the two negatives that we got, number one, it was a very fast layout, not overly technical. That's the kind of term everybody said. It's not really very technical, which meant that it was going to bring together the pack. Some of the guys that may have struggled that didn't have the talent or whatever it may be, younger racers, they were going to struggle a bit with a tighter track. They didn't. So this tightened everything back up. And that was, I think, one of the primary initial feedbacks that we got was, man, I really wish the track could have been a little more technical. Now, that didn't come from everybody. Some people loved it, but that, I think, was the first thing that we heard.
Well, that's again, during the track walk is really, and obviously during practice was kind of when we started hearing that. And that's kind of what we saw too, just visually, was it's a super fast layout. It wasn't as technical as some of the previous three have been. But again, we had a little bit more space then. So they're kind of restricted. There was no big sweeper. That was one thing we were kind of missing, other than the last corner, which was been copied for the last two layouts that we've had, which has been a really good opening corner. So when racing began, that was great to see. We didn't have very many pileups in the opening corners, necessarily because of the track, and then maybe because of the pushback bumpers as well too. Agreed.
Yeah, the pushback bumper for the first time, of course, at the Super Nats, and that's definitely played a role in having a lot cleaner starts than we've had, especially in the times we've been at the Rio. Dave, probably the most obvious negative feedback that we got was in regards to the track build itself. SCUSA had a number of areas on the racetrack where the water barrier was actually right at the exit point. So if you got wide and got into the water barrier, that was number one. They're heavy, they're filled with water, so the damage is more aggressive. You and I both said we would rather have seen Tech Pros there, with that maybe a foot gap so that you could tap a Tech Pro and move it and not bend an axle, whatever it may be. But the biggest thing I think was when you have a water barrier at the exit and it gets broken and it empties its contents all over the racetrack, we end up going on a delay. And we had a couple of delays over the week that were 30 minutes to an hour in length because all the water poured out, and it took the SCUSA staff an hour to get things dried back up again.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's something we've seen over and over again at the Super Nationals, and one of the races last year, the Tag Masters or X30 Master race, was red flagged and called early because of it. That you kind of have to, some kind of switch needs to go off in somebody's head and say, okay, we can't use our big barriers as exit points, period. And bottom line, right? Anytime it's an exit point, it's got to be a Tech Pro or a Scrivener. And in this layout, there were multiple areas where it was the exit point. And
Agreed.
And you got to have the two different types of barriers surrounding the racetrack, period. It just has to be that way. If you're going to give up 4 or 5 feet, you got to do it. It's just you have to do that in terms of not only safety, because it's a lot safer probably to hit the Tech Pros than it is the water barriers, and two, for scheduling reasons to avoid these delays and this having the track get wet because of it.
Yeah. Well, and look what happened, right? One day we lost the lunch break, so the whole SCUSA staff's out there from 7:00 in the morning till like 8 or 9 at night, whatever it was. We had to lose the lunch break to get back close to on schedule, and we ended up being out at the track till probably an hour and a half, 2 hours longer than we needed to be. And that's just the bottom line. Let's make this addition to our track build formula that anywhere where there's an exit point where a driver rolls out, that we're going to have a Tech Pro barrier between that and the water barrier. I understand the water barriers have to be there. That's the big, strong delineation between a wall or a fence or fans or whatever it may be, or the grid. But you've got to be able to have that little extra that so you're not making contact. Indeed, there's enough Tech Pros there. They had a bunch of leftover Scribners anyways. And you and I have already said in other broadcasts before, there's probably needed to be areas on the track where the barriers weren't used. On a long straightaway, you don't need to have the entire thing covered in barriers because you have to have an escape road for someone instead of having to pull the cart over top, that they can pull it behind the wall, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I do, but I don't, because having the straightaways defined kind of looks cool from the above, as we saw in the aerials. But again, if you have the extra barriers, or you don't have them, then remove them from the straightaways where you don't need them, or bring in hay bales. Hay bales in a straightaway it just defines where you can go. And they'll still stop you if they need to. It's old school, but it'll work. And
like I said, they had enough extra Tech Pros there that they could have put a couple up. And they did. And let's give SCUSA props. A couple areas on the racetrack they did change. They added some tech pros coming out of turn number 12 so that there was going to be that gap. You would hit a tech pro instead of the barrier first. They did make some adjustments in turn number 12, moving it back a little bit. We will say that. They did try to make some adjustments.
But it wasn't enough.
No, agreed. Agreed.
You got to call it as we see it, right?
Agreed. No, it's true because it's always got to get better. One thing that you mentioned quite a bit as well, we talked about it, was that it just seems like they needed some more track staff, like another person at every major corner, because we had to go full course yellow so many times throughout the week because somebody hit and a barrier got knocked off, and instead of having somebody there to get it fixed, we had to go full course yellow.
Because
they
all they could do was wave the yellow because there was nobody there to help them either pull carts off the racetrack or, as you said, fix the barrier. And so that's when you need a flagger and a runner at every corner.
Yep.
I mean, so you have 12 corners and you have 24 guys on the track plus your marshals that are up in the high risers. So you're looking at, and if you have to, just add 6 more. So that way it's not another, and it's not doubling your cost for on-track workers, but just so that way they can run to where they need to go. Because as we've seen in the past, we had one guy that would run from one end of the racetrack all the way to the other to help out and to get things cleared up. So that way they didn't have to go full course yellow. And I think there was too many times that they did it too quick. And I think they kind of learned as the week went on, because again, the temporary circuits are still kind of new to Neil and Joe, even though Joe's been around since dirt was created. So, yeah. But even still, the workers, a lot of the workers are new, so they just didn't. We've been around, I've been around temporary circuits since 2004. You've been at it a lot longer than that. So we kind of understand it. And then the more you do it, the quicker you kind of react. It's just like driving.
The other thing that's really interesting is the fact that kind of everybody's changed. Excuse me. Nowadays, if you're a driver, you get in a wreck, you just get it and you walk away from your cart. Right, you're not there to help, which you should be. Which is again, that's another topic in itself.
But again, half our categories, some of these kids can't even lift it. So that's true. That's the other problem. So if you got 3 or 4 minis or micros that are locked up together in a corner, I mean, there's probably 5% of the drivers that can actually lift their own cart. So
Yep,
that's kind of the problem with that.
Let's talk about the pushback bumper, David. We mentioned it, and it really. It did its job. There's no doubt about it. It has its detractors. People talk about it all the time. We've talked about the fact that it's a Band-Aid, but the pushback bumper did its job in terms of really correcting a lot of the racing. The starts were a lot better. Yeah, there were a lot of penalties that were laid out for it, for sure. But the starts, number one, were just better. And the racing, if you go back and look at the Winter Nationals, that was such a disaster earlier this year, fast forward to Supernats, night and day difference in terms of the racecraft.
It was. But again, the pushback then provides the opportunity for defensive driving. And it's something we've seen over the last couple of years with the pushback bumper around the world. We just watched it this week in the Rotax Grand Finals. Defensive driving is one way to keep your position. And so again, that kind of limits the chances the challenger can take. Because he doesn't want to take that chance and get a pushback penalty, which ironically there weren't very many at the front of the fields in Rotax. But at Supernats was a little different story where we saw probably 3 or 4 drivers lose a podium result because of pushback penalties.
Yep. Agreed. One thing that was interesting was when those drivers went on defense mode, and how many times we talk about this during heat races, even on Super Sunday, the minute someone went on a defense mode with this track layout, you brought everybody back into the battle, right? It could be 3 drivers up front. The minute you go defense, like in turn number 6, which was the right-hander, all of a sudden you packed everybody back up because you just gave up so much of the exit speed because the track was so quick. When you went on defense mode, man, it changed the complexion of the race for sure.
Yeah, you're right, because the track layout was such a fast course. Once you did go on the defense mode, you would lose 2 to 3 tenths a corner anytime you put on the defense. So you're right. It did bring in the trailing pack closer. And as we saw in the X30 senior race on the last lap, it created a little bit of chaos there too.
You're listening to episode number 37 here on the EKN Radio Network. We thank you for tuning in. It's the EKN Debrief of the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals 22. Rob Howden alongside David Cole. We're working our way through the Paddock Pass segment that today presented by CRG Nordam. David, a couple things to cap off the Paddock Pass. One of the big questions talking to people in the paddock was, what's happening with SKUSA Gearbox Racing? What's going to happen with the new IAME SSE engine? Obviously now made available. SuperKarts USA IAME, along with Billy Musgrave, made a really cool video kind of detailing the installation of the engine. A number of people already have the engine in hand. They're getting ready for 2019. It's going to be part of the Florida or the SKUSA Winter Series. But then the question we had talking to some people, why not just go KZ? That really was, we're not going to get into that now, but I guess really just to let people know that was a talking point in the paddock throughout the weekend.
It was, and I think it'll continue to be until we really hit the track in January with the new engine package, and probably will continue on after that too as well, depending on how things go. But again, it's just SKUSA and IAME are working together to provide a shifter solution that is economical and reliable, and I think those are the two key factors of why they're doing this. And again, we don't know what's going to happen until we hit the track, really.
Well, the funny thing is you get a guy like Tom Kutcher, who, of course, is the president of SuperKarts USA. He's getting ready to sit down and talk about, what are we going to do in the stock Honda engine? The parts are no longer available. That was always writing on the wall. Sooner or later it was going to happen. People could talk about why you would bring out a new engine, whatever it may be. But people do need to remember this. Those of you who don't have the context, Tom Kutcher used to own he used to race SuperKarts USA. So he raced the old ICC engines. He had a shop, Extreme Karting, that was, went racing with Ronnie White and Matt Jaskell and Alan Shuto and Joe White. And, he went racing with Extreme Karting. Here's a guy that knows what his engine bills were like, running ICC. It's an expensive package. People will tell you, no, it's not. Well, it is. We know that. The development is there. It's expensive, more expensive to run. It's just an expensive engine. The concept with the IAME SSE was, hey, can we get a motor that can produce a ton of horsepower, hence the 175, more output, but then can we dial it down to a better RPM range to still have all that great? So we get the horsepower numbers, we get the speed, we get the pace we're looking for, but you dial an engine down so that the reliability is going to be there. That, I think, in the end, people needed to realize that, we're going to try to sit down with Kutcher, with Tom, and actually have an interview with him as well to kind of give him his thoughts about it a little bit. Because the bottom line, David, is that they're trying to come up with a solution that they think is better than the KZ program. That's really what it comes down to. Like you said, more affordable and more reliable. That was their whole plan from the beginning.
Yeah, reliability is a big issue. I think it's probably one of the bigger ones because. The longer you're able to use the engine on a same piston or same rod and same bottom end, the better long term wise for racers. So, again, it's all still a wait and see type situation.
Yeah, we got a month and a bit, right? First race of the SKUSA Winter Series, second weekend in January. So there's going to be a lot of chatter over the next month and a half about it. Once it hits the ground, then we're going to get some real feedback on how it races, and people are going to be racing the thing, and we're going to know about rebuild schedules, you name it. So there's still a lot to learn about it. But again, SKUSA's all in. They've invested in this program, and that's going to be their thing moving forward. Now, David, talking Paddock Pass, there was a pretty big names in the paddock. If you're a lifetime karting fan and addict, if you're one of these guys that just lives and breathes the sport, it was kind of head turning walking around and seeing the people that were in the paddock. I'll let you start to throw some names out, but man, there was some star power in terms of world karting champions in the paddock this weekend.
Well, I think the first name is someone we thought of going into the weekend and somebody we wanted to get there. And then one night we just happened to see he was up in our tower, which was the 1978 World Karting Champion, Lake Speed, the only American ever to do so. Loves karting, been involved karting his whole life pretty much, and still karts today in North Carolina. Just happened to, I think it was Thursday, we were doing our qualifying coverage, and up he comes with his old tuner and mechanic Lynn Haddock up in our tower. So we got to talking with him, and we came up with the idea, and Scusa was on board with it, to make him the Grand Marshal for the event now, 40 years after winning the World Championship.
Now let's put the asterisk on that, because I know we said this a couple of times. He's not the only American world champion, because of course Logan Sargent,
only world karting champion, like senior level. Right. He is the only senior American to do so. Junior, yes.
In the senior
Logan
level.
Sargent is a junior world champion. That's two different categories. We got to remember that.
I love it. All right, David's going to give you the lowdown, folks. But add in Terry Fullerton, of course, with Fullerton USA was over here. Terry Fullerton champion in '73. Daniel Rossi was here. Marco Ardigo, Pedro Hiltbrand, Lorenzo Travasanuto. We had some world champions, dude, at the Supernats this year, and some of them driving, some of them wrenching, some of them coaching. Some of them, like Terry, overseeing the program. Just star power. I love to see it there.
It is. It's, I think we're starting to see that more and more every year that we do have the Supernats. We would have liked to have seen Ardigo obviously racing, but he was on the coaching side instead. The first time for Hildebrand to be actually at the Super Nationals racing. He was there under the CRG Nordam tent, racing both Pro Shifter and X30 Senior. And then obviously Lorenzo Travasanuto, the reigning world champion, who provisionally won last year's Super Nationals, but again, the starting infraction took the victory away for him, and he was not able to claim redemption.
Yeah, it had some fun, though. We'll talk more about that when we get into the actual race report. Capping off our Paddock Pass, Superkarts USA inducting its 2018 class. Fausto Vitello, the late Fausto Vitello, the founder of Track Magic Racing Karts. If you were around in karting in the mid-'90s and early 2000s, that was one of those iconic names. The, of course, Track Magic program out of San Francisco, the traditional yellow and black, that livery that they always ran. And, during the opening ceremonies, David, I kind of spit out some of the names of guys that we remember running for Track Magic. Mamo Gidley, of course, Jason Lapointe, Kyle Martin, Oliver Rowan, Brett Buckwalter, Landon Yee. You keep going. Rudolph ran it for a while. Bobby Wilson, Jonathan Bomarito, Scott and Alex Speedboat spent time on a Track Magic. Just a lot of guys.
Gary Carlton.
Gary, then let's go to the kind of the last iteration in the FTR chassis. Yeah, Gary Carlton. There you go, right there, and it's impressive, man. I think it's a very good pick to go into the Superkarts USA Hall of Fame, because if you talk about that momentum that Scusa had, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, that's really what propelled them from what was at one point a Midwest Regional Series, took them to the national level, and I think part of the fuel that made that exciting was Track Magic's commitment to the program, and putting great drivers up front on the Pro Moto Tour, which really was that first thing that made Scusa the national power that it's become.
I think you can kind of compare Track Magic to Margay, both being American manufacturers, where Margay has more of the historic factor with the sport in general, where, as you said, Track Magic was more part of the Scusa birth. They were around it at the beginning, and they fueled, like you said, a fire, not or a fire, but enthusiasm for shifter kart racing, and American made, and a lot of people dug that. There wasn't any other really American brand that was into shifter kart racing, so it was Track Magic. So if you wanted made in the USA, it was Track Magic, and they made it right there in San Fran area. A lot of, like you said, a lot of the racers had their input in the actual chassis designs. So that's one of the key things I think that people dug with Track Magic and the name. So, obviously a true honor for that brand.
Yeah, and of course, Fausto, he was all about the innovation, wanted to push the envelope. He had his guys out at Dixon burning laps down, prototype chassis all the time, changing stuff. And that was the part of the cool factor was they really did push the envelope and work hard. Now, in addition to Fausto Vitello, the second individual being named to the class of 2018, and well-deserved for Stan Bronarski, longtime Superkarts USA official. He's run a couple of different regions, was brought in to run the Central States region. They brought him in to run the Colorado region for a while. He's just been, the best line I would say, he's been a SCUSA soldier for over 20 years. Working early Supernats. He was a promoter himself. Just a guy that's been part of this program. He bleeds SCUSA blue. And, it's good to see Stan get that award as well. And, of course, David, the 2016 and 2017 classes brought up as well to receive the new trophies designed and made by Chuck G Fabrications. Really cool trophy and good opportunity to bring all the SCUSA Hall of Fame out for that for the opening ceremonies.
Yeah, and they were all there too, which was great. So it was good to get everybody the trophy that they deserved. Obviously a good little ticket to take home with them, leaving Supernats and Vegas in general, because not a lot of people get to take home things from Vegas.
Right, you leave money there, right?
Yep.
Okay, folks, stick with us. More to come. Rob Howden alongside David Cole. Our debrief really starting to get into it now. It's race report time for Super Nationals number 22.
Hello, karting fans. This is AJ Myers, and you're listening to the EKN Radio Network.
Fullerton. It's a name that's recognized around the globe in the sport of karting. And now, 1973 World Karting Champion Terry Fullerton puts his decades of experience and knowledge into his own Fullerton chassis. Fullerton USA is the importer for the chassis and offers a lineup that ranges from kid karts right through to shifter, with frames specifically designed for cadet and senior competition. Fullerton scored 6 victories this year in WK X30 senior competition and went on to earn the season championship while also placing runner-up in the USPKS program. The Fullerton chassis has also garnered multiple European national titles over the last 2 seasons. Learn more at fullerton-usa.com or through our namesake at terryfullerton.co.uk. Racers west of the Mississippi should look up our West Coast dealer, Yesnick Racing, based in California at yesnickracing.com. Make sure to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're trackside, stop by the Fullerton USA Yesnick Racing pit area to check out the karts and sit down with one of our representatives. Make the move, the legend today. Fullerton Karts. Are you a kart shop owner looking for a new line of products to put on your sales shelf? If so, it's time to make a call to Courtney Concepts. Courtney Concepts is excited to introduce white box brake pads, which are available for Tony Kart and OTK, CRG Ven 05, Burrell Art, and Bennett karts. They are available in medium and hard compounds. Courtney is also a distributor for a number of popular products used every weekend at the kart track, including Motul Oil, RK and Regina Chain, and NKP. Other products that Courtney Concepts is proud to distribute include ICO bearings, coil bearings, ARS oil seals, XAM sprockets, and Frixa brake rotors and pads. For more information on the products we distribute, head to CourtneyConcepts.com.
Hello, karting fans. This is Sean Bailiff with Trinity Karting Group, and you're locked into the EKN Radio Network.
Welcome back to episode number 37 of the EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole as we get ready to jump now into the race report. We're going to go class by class, give you a kind of an overview. Of course, you can see all the video on the Superkarts USA Facebook page. Make sure to get on there. If you're watching it, share it out again. Keep sharing it out on Facebook. We're getting more people to look at it, more views, more people get an opportunity to watch this amazing coverage that Greenlight Productions brought. This race report could be this segment of the race report, rather, being presented by Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, Tillet seats, and of course, their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from providing a helping hand in a weekday test outing or at a club event, to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. All right, David, first segment, we're going to hit X30 Junior, Mini Swift, Micro Swift. X30 Junior, pretty darn impressive racing all the way through. A couple drivers still stepping up to go at it on Super Sunday.
Yeah, defending winner Jack Crawford got out early from the pole position. So we thought, it's his. He has it. We thought there was no way anybody was catching him. Well, Jeremy Fairburn decided, no, this is my race to win. So he started actually back in the 12th spot and was able to work his way up into second and ran down Crawford. And it was an amazing drive from Fairburn. We had no visions of him catching Crawford, and he was able to run him down. And Fairburn actually becomes the 11th different winner in the category with no repeats ever in this category.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
Isn't it 11 different winners in X30 Junior? Yeah, we know top drivers normally move on to senior or whatever else they do, but man, nobody doubles up. It's unbelievable. And Crawford almost did it. Let's put it that way. That's how cool it is, because Jack was quick all weekend long. Was very strong, almost backed up last year, but did get the job done. Jeremy Fairburn, as I predicted, able to get the win.
Yes.
7th victory. Don't worry. I'll take my beating at the end when you talk about the EKN predictions from David and I. I did not fare well in the final tally, but I did win this one. I figured Jeremy was going to be good, and he was. He won 7th win for Tony Kart in the category as well. They've had a really good run in X30 Junior. Now, wild last laps are what we like to see on Super Sunday, and we talked about how this layout kind of brought everybody close. At the end of a race, when you start going into that defensive mode because you're trying to win the Super Nats, that brings everybody back into the fight again. David, Mini Swift, the last lap, man, I was calling it on the video. Whew, what a battle for the race win.
It was, and again, the mini category has always proven to be one of the wildest classes we see week in, week out. And we talked about the track layout a little bit earlier. Well, when we first saw it, we saw the curbing on what is really the outside of turn 4 and really the inside of turn 5. It's a little kink as you head towards turn 6. Why do they have this curbing there? We thought this is a stupid spot to put a little curb there. Well, it ended up being a great idea for Scusi because it was basically the exit point. It was, do not go past this area or you're in the wall. And for Cruz, it's probably the greatest curb he's ever seen on a racetrack because if that curb was not there, he would have been in the wall. It was a wild kind of last lap thing where everybody was kind of dicing for position and going through turn 4. And as they came through turn 4, Cruz found himself on the outside and flew over that turn 5 curb and actually held his line on the inside and got through turn 6 with the lead. And that was the winning move to be able to hold on for the checkered flag. So Cruz should have probably went and gotten that curb and taken it off the actual pavement and brought it home with him because that curb pretty much won that race for him.
Yeah, if the curb hadn't been there, the guys on the inside would have been able to push him out, and there's a good possibility he would have got into the barriers on the exit of the corner. Of course, the drivers that were on the inside of him knew that they had to come to the left a little bit to not get into that curve themselves. So, yeah, then he just launched over top and held the position and ends up winning over Nikita Johnson by 67 thousandths of a second. And now, David, we could talk about Cruz considering the fact that the Rotax Grand Finals down in Brazil are now done. This kid's been just amazing. What a season as he wins the SCUSA Winter Series title, podiums at the Rotax US Open, wins the WK Manufacturers Cup title, repeats his triumph at the IAME International Final in France. He's a Supernats winner as well, the first Supernats win for NitroKart, and then he goes down and wins the Rotax Grand Final. Like, you got to be kidding me. This kid's this impressive.
And just remember, Rob, he turned 10 years old this year in March. So
wow.
He's only 10 years old. So technically he had 2 more years in cadets, but that's not going to happen.
No.
Obviously he's one of those drivers that, they want to move him up into junior. So it's kind of that question mark, because really he doesn't turn 11 until March, and really technically junior is 12, but I don't, it's so we'll see what happens. And the thing about it too is he ran micro max in Rotax. It wasn't mini, it was micro.
Yep.
So it's crazy to see the amount of success that Cruz has had in just, the 4 years that he's been in cadet racing.
He was also our October driver of the month, and it's going to be pretty hard not to make him back-to-back driver of the month. I think it's, you know what I mean? Like, guy wins the Super Nats and he wins Rotax in November. Pretty darn impressive for Brent.
Well, technically it was December that he won the Rotax. So,
ooh, you slider!
So we're probably going to push him to December.
Wow, that's harsh. That is harsh. All right, let's go Micro Swift, because I had mentioned that Nitro Kart, David, getting their first Super Nats victory. Well, they actually ended up getting two. Pretty impressive run for Nitro Kart as Ben Mayer ends up topping a really strong micro field.
Yeah, it was a great little lead pack that they had going there with 4 drivers kind of, setting each other up, trying to figure it out. Cameron Brinkman on the Merlin was really strong throughout the race. Obviously had the fast lap of the race, being as quick as he was. He just kind of was figuring out where Mayer was good, where he was bad, and made a couple of moves, had the lead, but Mayer was able to better him on the final lap and hold on to the victory over Brinkman, with SCUSA Pro Tour champion Max Garcia in third spot for his first Super Nationals. So
I was pretty impressed with Max Garcia. Coming in as the champion. Remember, we saw him kind of for the first time at the Winter Series down, in Homestead, and this kid's pretty impressive. The way he developed throughout the year, he came in with so much confidence and momentum into the Super Nats. He was just kind of was just handling himself up front. He just overall ends up third on the podium, but man, just an impressive Super Nats for Garcia.
It was impressive year for him, really.
Yeah.
Him along with Mayer are probably moving up to mini next year. So, it was a good close for their micro careers, obviously. Brinkman earning his best SCUSA result of 2018, obviously with the runner-up. And then another good drive for probably his micro finale was Caleb Grafar coming up to 5th after starting 14th in the final.
Interesting thing about Gafera, the big issue, not big issue, it kind of shows what happens when you have a tight field like we had in micro and you have trouble in qualifying. Gafera not able to get a fast qualifying lap in after a red flag for a flip. And then, of course, not able to get the engine started. So he starts dead last, past, I think, 65 karts in total in the heat races, trying to work his way back forward, and then 9 more in the final to get up to 5th. But the bottom line is, when you're starting mid-pack, 14th was the starting position for Gafera. Those leaders out front were smart. They hooked up, they pulled away, and Gafera, the best he could do was 5th. Great run. But again, shows you how hard it is. When you don't have a good qualifying run at the Super Nats, man, it just changes everything. It makes it so tough.
Yeah, it was not a Jeremy Fairburn performance, that's for sure. But still, overall, a great end for Gafar.
So the first 3 categories wrapped up here for our race report. After this break, we're going to come back and talk about X30 Senior, KA100 Junior, Master Shifter, and KZ. Stick with us. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network.
I'm Jake Craig, and you're listening to the EKN Radio Network.
You've likely heard of us, and you may have seen us in the paddock. We're Mad Old Nut Racing, the official race team of Mad Croc Karting USA. You're going to see a lot more of us in 2019 as we expand our racing program in an effort to win more races while giving talented drivers the opportunities they need. Croc Promotions has some exciting developments coming in 2019, including a new dedicated facility to manufacture our karts in-house. We'll be in full control of our quality and material, and we'll be responsive to design updates that come from our R&D efforts. And when it comes to R&D for the U.S. market, we've signed reigning SCUSA champion AJ Myers for 2019, and he'll lead our team and will work to provide experience and insight for all of our drivers. We'll be front and center on the SuperCard USA Winter Series and Pro Tour and the California Pro Kart Challenge. We're also excited about our new connection with Checkered Motorsports on the East Coast. As a new dealer and official Mad Croc Karting USA team, Checkered Motorsports will provide our Mad Croc drivers with the opportunity to compete in the biggest events east of the Mississippi. If you're a driver who has talent and passion, and you're looking for that opportunity to shine, contact us at Mad Old Nut Racing. Follow us on social media, and don't waste any time in contacting us if you're looking for a top-quality, affordable, race-winning chassis or a spot in a team that places talent and commitment over the bottom line finances of karting. In a sport where the difference between winning and losing is measured in hundredths of a second, you can't afford to leave anything on the table. You invest in the best equipment, the latest components, and top-of-the-line data acquisition systems. Anything to find one more tenth, right? I'll tell you right now, the best investment you could ever make is in yourself. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the new state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy uses the very best equipment, Burrell Art Carts. They offer half-day, one-day, two-day, and three-day clinics. They have a one-on-one student-to-instructor ratio, and they will design a customized curriculum for each student. Alan Rudolph is one of the most respected people in the sport, and he has nearly 20 years' experience training drivers, including Chase Elliott, Neil Alberico, Austin Versteeg, and Sabre Cook, and rising stars like Pietro Fittipaldi. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Start off your season with a driver tune-up. Tune up your season with some driver coaching. Or get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. For more information, visit speedsportsracingpark.com/racing-academy.
This is Jim McKinney, and you're listening to EKN Radio Network 24/7.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, this debrief presented first on the radio network. Then we'll turn it into a podcast that you'll be able to download to your mobile device. Otherwise, make sure you have the EKN app on the phone. Boom, click your 24/7 karting content. The EKN Radio Network, 365 days a year. This segment of the Race Report brought to you by Precision Karting Technologies. With over 40 years of manufacturing experience, Precision Karting Technologies is the leader in American-made components. We produce high-quality products led by our full line of chromoly and mild steel axles. Metric or imperial, standard or custom, we have what you need. Collars, keys, and bearings, we're the source for axle components in the USA. With over 70 dealers through the US and Canada, it's easy to choose PKT. Family-owned and operated, proudly made in the USA. All right, David, X30 Senior, bottom line, it's the UFC. You know what I mean? These guys are out there, elbows up. You're talking three-time Rotax Grand Finals winner. We got 2 World Karting Champions. You got that sibling duo from Canada in the Hunt, in the Lupians. Put them up against the best drivers in the USA, and that's the X30 Senior Final at on Super Sunday. It was just one of those ones where everybody was on their edge of their seat. You couldn't have asked for much more, and it was perfect for the TV coverage. Man, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, we've seen in the past where we've had walkaways in this category, and It just seems to be every year the lead pack gets getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's really just kind of the last few lap kind of chess game is like, okay, who's going to go for it, and when are you going to go for it, and really that's what we saw. With Christian Brooks, he was a guy that went for it.
I like it. That to me, that's the deal. Go for it. Like, it was 25 lappers, so the first 20 laps kind of felt like a chess match, as you said, right? They were just kind of going back and forth. Where do I want to position myself? I'll go back to 5th. I'll work my way back up to 2nd. It was just one of those races where everything was coming to a head on the last lap. right?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Being the world champion, Travis Anuto kind of put himself where he wanted to be, which was in the lead. And he left just enough room where Brooks used that turn 4 curbage to kind of get inside and at the corner. With the contact with the curb, it created contact with Travis Anuto that sent them both drifting out wide towards that turn 5 curbage, or the Brent Cruz curb, we should call it. And that allowed really Ben Cooper to slip right on past by both of them heading into turn 6.
A wild ending, of course. He gets through. He gets the lead, goes on to get the win, coming out of the final couple of corners with a bit of a gap. Zane Maloney from Barbados fighting it out with Samuel Lupien and then Cedric Lupien. Maloney ends up in second, Cedric Lupien in third. Just a great overall weekend for the Rollison Performance Group driver. Christian Brooks able to continue on. He had enough forward momentum. He ends up finishing fourth, but gets a 10-position penalty for that contact in turn 4 with Travis Anuto, who ended up in sixth. Ryan McDermott actually works his way up onto the podium, running that number 6 for Robert Wickens. Made it 3 Canadians, essentially Canadians, on the podium, and Lupien, McDermott, and Cooper. And then Jake Craig, top USA driver, after that last lap kind of scramble, he slides through to cap the podium. David, just the finish we were hoping for in terms of excitement. And man, you could, from where we were at start finish, you could just hear the gasp of everyone when the contact was made.
You could. It was just, that's kind of why we wanted those grandstands all next to each other, right next to us, and to kind of get that, that kind of stadium feel, where everybody's enjoying and watching the same thing and enjoying it, and just, that type of race is what you want to see every Super Nationals.
Let's take a little second to talk a bit about Ben Cooper. I had chat with him, before we went green when I was rolling around the paddock on Tuesday. And hey, Ben, you're coming back. It was a late announcement that you're going to be running with Mike Rolston and his crew. What brought you back, man? You got your own racing academy up in Quebec. What brought you back? And he said, it's the Super Nats. I wanted to be here, but I wanted to know if I was coming, that I was able to win. I was only going to come if I thought I could win. I didn't find out until our podium interview that I knew he had dedicated himself to coming out. But dude, he loses 20 pounds, gets into some of the best shape of his life, goes all in. And yeah, he wasn't the guy that made the last lap pass, but you put yourself in a position to win. And especially in the last lap, P3 is not the worst place to be. And we know that things can happen. And he was there. P3 pounced on it, took the win. Just another feather in what is a tremendous resume for Ben Cooper.
No, I think we've seen that in the last 3 years now. Third place is where you want to be on the last lap. I think Jake Craig won his from third place. I think Pagano was right there in third place. And then Joshua Carr was second and won his won his race last year. So first might not be the position you want to be in unless you're able to get away.
Let's move to our first of the KAs. I know that you were very excited to see the KA program at the Super Nationals. Just the racers they brought out were more of like that, that regional racer guy. There were some national guys, but a lot of regional guys in there as well, or some older guys in the senior category when we get to that. But KA 100 Junior, David, a 2-driver show. James Wharton from Australia, Connor Zillich from the USA, old school 100cc battle.
Well, yeah, I thought, the KA category provides that pack mentality, and I thought we were going to see that in both of them. Unfortunately, it was only 2 drivers in KA Junior, but that was just because these 2 drivers were clearly quicker than anybody else in the field. So, it was kind of that Aussie versus USA battle that we were kind of hoping to see, because after all, the KA engine was created for the Australian market. And then we've taken it over.
And it's obviously growing like wildfire now. James Wharton, the Aussie, ends up winning from the pole position. Connor Zillich in second. 34 thousandths of a second at the line. The podium completed by Caden Wharf, Dylan Christie, and Bryson Morris when all the penalties were laid out and the dust had settled. Overall, I think KA 100 in the junior category really making an impression in their first run at the Super Nats.
Yeah, actually, no penalties in the top 5 for that category. So it was kind of a good race for third. With Wharf winning that battle, but overall good racing in the category. The kind of the disappointment we saw was Oliver Calvo going for the 10 grand after winning both the IKF Grand Nationals and Streets of Lancaster in the category. Just didn't quite have the week that he wanted, obviously, with not winning, and just I think he had the speed, just wasn't able to make the right decisions and put himself in position to get that money.
He had I think he had one mechanical, I believe, or something like that, right? In one of the heat races. He actually came from deeper in the field and had a pretty good run in the final, as I remember. But it was tough. $10,000 up for grabs after those two big wins. Not quite for Oliver Calvo. Let's go to Master Shifter. David, we saw a couple of the races and the cool down laps afterwards when you really saw that, the explosion of emotion where it just, I've just won the Super Nats. And this was one of them. I think that the legend Rob Logan, obviously just, loving the fact that he was running good, was wanting to get out of the gate quickly to get that Super Nats win. And man, the whole shot of his life probably for Logan as he just bolts away from the field on the opening lap.
Yeah, again, not a category we thought we would see a driver dominate in the main event, because the heat races obviously showed that with Jordan Musser, Ryan Kinnear, Jason Faint, all right there within Rob Logan's reach, actually getting him on the third heat race. So we thought we were going to have the same type of battle, but yeah, like you said, that was just a whole shot of legend by Rob Logan to be able to get away.
And then he puts it down. You get that lead, David. You talked about the fact that they kind of reeled him in the third heat race. Rob went on the defensive early in heat 1 and heat 2, held everybody back. But he just was able to get that lead. And man, we all know how hard it is to win races against a tough field. Add in the Super Nationals prestige and the stress. Rob goes out and puts in, 20 impressive laps to be able to pull away and win that deal. And then again, as I said, the emotion that he showed afterwards, that's the kind of the thing, the hair was standing up on my arms, because that's what this race means to a lot of people. It means that to me. I've announced all 22 of them. This is my race. And to see that kind of emotion, same went with Billy Musgrave, you get that emotion for a win like that. I just think it was an impressive performance. Really solid.
Well, and it was pretty cool. He was probably one of the best winning speeches other than Cooper. Yeah. And then the thing I kind of took from it was that he thanked the Ryan Beechner, who helped give him in karting at the beginning. I think he said, 15 years ago or something like that. So, to be able to remember that, obviously me, I've been involved in karting through my family. So I obviously thank my family, but to be able to remember that person and to thank that person for a win like this, it's pretty cool.
Well, and Rob obviously thanked Darren Elliott as well. Those two guys went back and forth. Darren was kind of a mentor for Rob for a number of years, and Rob had his whole family there. They were up in the tower and they were enjoying it, and I think it just made it such a special deal. And you're winning against amazing guys. Last year's winner Ryan Kinnear right in there for second. We know that Jason Faint from Australia always in the hunt. He ends up in third. 3-time SCUSA Pro Tour champion Jordan Musser in fourth, and then Supermaster Pro Tour champion John Crow in fifth. That's some pretty stout competition. Not only did he win, but he was able to win over essentially the best we have to offer in terms of master shifter racing.
Yeah, without a doubt. And those guys, it's kind of like the cadet mentality where you got to work together in order to catch the leader. Well, these guys didn't want to work together at all.
No, they didn't. Hey, do we give some props to the Crow Show? The Supermaster Pro Tour champion battling up there into third at one point. Man, John's dedicated himself to the sport this year as well. It's paid off with a bunch of championships. He's won 30-something races this year, running, of course, the combined S4 Supermaster class in Master Shifter. A couple of these guys he's racing are 20 years younger than him. That's pretty damn impressive. John Crow on the podium in fifth.
Well, not to mention the Streets of Lancaster Grand Prix scholarship that he has for 2019. So, he's definitely had the most memorable season ever that he's had so far.
Let's cap off this segment of our race report with a look at KZ. Obviously, $10,000 up for grabs each and every year. This one was all Marian Kremers until the red flag. Yeah, Kremers was the fastest guy all weekend long, able to get out to a lead, had a pretty solid little advantage there, but my mind is like 2 seconds or something like that. I think at one point,
at least,
closing to 3. It was his. He had it locked and loaded for PSL on the Burrell. red flag, Tyler Kaufman getting into the wall, red flag. We go back to green, and Leonardo Lorandi, on the parallel for baby race, jumps, takes advantage of it, takes the lead, and holds on for the victory, $10,000. That's a tough one for Kremers, I think, to swallow.
Yeah, and it was not a red flag that you couldn't not throw. I mean, it was a pretty horrific crash with Kaufman's body flailing and doing 360s all over the pavement. So yeah. It was not an incident that you could have said, oh, we can hold this off. It was a bit sketchy, and obviously good on the officials to call it. Unfortunate for Kremers though, and costing him the title and the 10K.
Maximilian Paul and Noah Molell on the podium for the first time at the Super Nats, and wow, what a run all weekend long for Kyle Wick. Last year making his debut in the Pro S1 category. He makes his debut in KZ and puts it on the podium. Kid out of Auburn, Washington. Real impressive on the CRG.
It was very impressive. Last year we saw him in his pro shifter debut at the Super Nats do very well until contact took him out. So obviously he has a niche for racing at the Super Nationals. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do again next year.
Yeah, you know what? Anytime someone can perform on the biggest stage, really that's I think a show of what the kid's made of. Second, of course, in the Pro Tour this year, Kyle Wick, if he does return in 2019, will have the national number 2 plate. A guy that we figured, David, I think was going to walk away with his fourth win, Paulo DeCanto. He and Ron White both getting removed from the results for working on their carts during the red flag. That was kind of a surprise to, I think, both of us.
It was, and I think really DeCanto lost it all in the heat races when he made that contact with Kremers. That obviously put him further back in the field and put him down on the grid. So again, obviously allowed Kremers to close up. And who's to say that DeCanto wouldn't have been on the podium after the red flag if it were not for the pushback bumper that he decided to unpush.
You're exactly right. Okay, guys, we've got one more segment here for the Race Report. We're going to talk about KA100 Senior, X30 Master, and of course we'll cap things off with Pro Shifter. Stick with us. More to come on episode number 37 of The Debrief.
This is Brian Jarskrak, and you're listening to the EKN Radio Network.
Your engine is the heart of your kart. If you're going to race for the podium, your engine needs to be at its absolute best. And Allison Racing Engines is where race winners and champions take their 2-cycle engines. And so should you. Allison Racing Engines is one of the sport's leading engine building services for IAME, Vortex, and Yamaha power plants, producing winning motors for national, regional, and club racers. Allison Racing Engines has won races and championships on the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, the WK Manufacturers Cup, United States Pro Kart Series, and in Rock Cup USA competition. This weekend, they'll be gunning for their third straight SCUSA Super Nationals win in the Mini Swift class. Thomas Naveau won with Allison Racing Engine in 2016, and they powered Connor Zilic to the top step last year. They're proud of their driver lineup this year, and they're prepared to do it again. If you're interested in selecting Allison Racing Engines for your IAME, Vortex, and Yamaha service needs in 2019, contact Brandon Jenkins directly at 317-522-7111. Make sure to visit AllisonRE.com and give them a follow on Facebook.
The Kart Republic has arrived in the USA, and it's taking the world by storm. Kart Sport North America is North America's exclusive importer and distributor for Dino Chiesa's Kart Republic chassis. Kart Republic has been racking up numerous national and international titles across all classes in its inaugural year of competition, including this year's CIK FIA World Championship. The team has a ride and drive seats and support spots available for the SCUSA Winter Series, USPKS, and WK Manufacturers Cup competitions, so call us today to reserve your own winning Kart Republic. Located in Mooresville, North Carolina, on-site at GoPro Motorplex, Kart Sport also offers driver training and coaching programs. kart service and storage, and full retail sales with the top brands in the sport available in their 6,000 square foot retail space as well as their online store. Kart Sport North America, top quality products, winning brands, and professional driver development services. Give us a call today at 855-527-8776 or visit us online at kartsportna.com.
Hello, karting fans. This is JH Motorsports, and you're locked into EKN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Rob Howden, joined by David Cole as we break down the SCUSA Super Nationals. We're a couple of weeks away from the end of the event. David and I did a bunch of sleeping. We reconnected with family and kind of decompressed and caught back up. We're going again. Let's jump into the final little bit here. The race report, this segment brought to you by ePart Trade. ePart Trade, electronic performance and racing trade, is a trade-only online product sourcing platform connecting performance parts suppliers with racing business professionals around the world. The ePart Trade platform is technology first for sourcing. The ePart Trade platform is interactive. Suppliers and buyers can connect with each other directly for more information or to request specific quotes on products. The ePart Trade platform is updated daily by our suppliers with new information, offers, and more. The ePart Trade platform is the future of the motorsports industry and how we work together. Log in and join now for free at www.eparttrade.com. The racing world is changing, and ePart Trade is changing it. Welcome to the future. David, KA100 Senior. I know you were fired up for this one here. We got badasses from the East. We got badasses from the West. Everybody kind of came together. We got badasses from Australia. What a battle in KA100. That was so much fun to watch.
It certainly was. It was probably next to KZ and X30 Senior. It was the one class I wanted to see. You know, this KA100 package is doing a lot for the sport, essentially bringing some guys up from Briggs Racing or bringing guys down from X30 Senior, that kind of that middle ground that, that not too hard on your body, but yet some fun, fast racing.
Yeah, not as hard on the wallet either, right? That's the deal. It's you're paying for the speed. It's a little less aggressive in terms of driving, but it's also a little less aggressive on your wallet. It's a more budget-minded deal, but the competition is so good still.
Very good. Yeah, that's all we've seen all year long in the USPKS program and WK competition. And now obviously SCUSA's on board with it, bringing it to the Super Nationals. And then obviously it's going to be part of all the programs in 2019 as well. So, we were thinking a bigger lead group, but this one was only 4 drivers going at it. Dakota Pesic was able to grab the pole position through the heat races. He was among those, along with Stephen Barros, Josh Holtz, and Colton Ramsey. Those 4 were kind of going at it back and forth a little bit. Pesic actually was absent at the end after he made contact with the wall, coming to the white flag, fighting with Stephen Barros for position. So that moved Barros up into third, with Ramsey in the lead and Holtz in second. Those two kind of went at it a little bit. Then Barros was able on the final lap to go from third to first in the final 2 laps, making the pass in the same corner, turn 9, which we thought that wasn't going to be a passing opportunity. Well, Barros proved us wrong, making both of his passes in that corner to grab the victory.
He was definitely pushing my voice on the play-by-play because I was like so fired up with back-to-back passes like that. The way the race kind of unfolded over the last couple of laps, you talk about Pesic tapping the wall a little bit. I was really expecting Josh Holtz to be right in there as he was. Colton Ramsey got better and better throughout the weekend. Man, it was just great racing all around. And, to interview Barros on the podium, he was just Steven's just such a great guy. I'd say great kid, but he's not a great kid anymore. It's just such a great guy, and to see him get that victory, and there was the emotion from winning there. He said he'd always wanted to win the Super Nats, and was he going to be able to do it next 30 Senior? When was the opportunity going to come? This K100 program provided him with the opportunity he needed. He was there, and like you said, David, a couple of passes on the last couple of laps. That's going and getting it You know what I mean? You're not defending. You're not making that one pass. That's like coming to the final run through and really getting down and going and getting a win. That was well deserved, I think.
Yeah, it was just in the area that he did it. There's just enough room for a cart to get in there, and so if you're leading, you could hug it tighter, but that's gonna hurt your exit speed and gonna hurt you at the end of the straightaway. So, the veteran that he is, took advantage of a spot, and it paid off. And as you said, it's a great opportunity for people who don't quite have the advantage in X30 Senior or another category to come in and do it in KA 100.
Cap off the full top 5, the full podium, David, in KA 100 Senior.
Well, Holtz had it and then lost it, so he actually finished second, but suffered a jump start penalty, so that dropped him down to third, which moved Colton Ramsey then up to second. Australian Scott Foster was then up to fourth, with Pesic dropping out there towards the end. And then Thomas Mejia was actually fifth, but he suffered a pushback penalty, which took him off the podium and put Nick Ramirez into fifth.
Pretty. Once we jump into here to X30 Master, we can talk about how cool of a weekend it was for the Fosters, right? Pretty good way to wrap up Super Sunday for those guys.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Scott being the son of Kip Foster and X30 Master, definitely a good week. Obviously, they would have wanted maybe one more victory, but all in all, 2 podiums for those guys.
It's just, isn't it? Well, let's just jump right into X30 Master right now. It's so hard to vote against Kip Foster being in the fight for the race win at the Super Nats. He joins the 3-time winner club now. He was dominant all weekend long. There was other guys that were there. Great speed. Matt Johnson, Billy Cleveland, super fast. Renato David was in there. Jason Burns, Derek Wang. But it just seemed like Foster had full control of every one of the races he was in.
Yeah, it seemed like Burns had the pace to be able to get him, as we saw in the pre-final, or not pre-finals, the heat races. It seemed like Burns was kind of just not making sure he took both of them out, and just decided to settle for second in one of the heat races. But once it's main event time, I mean, Foster just lights up and very tough to beat. This race though, it looked like Johnson was going to be there to be able to challenge for it, but through all their shuffling for the lead, he made contact with Derek Wang. So that took both of those guys out. That allowed Burns to come up and somewhat challenge Foster, but never really being able to be close enough to make an attempt for a pass.
Yeah, true enough. It ends up being an Aussie 1-2 first and second, Foster and Burns. Matt Johnson's a guy that we've watched for the last dozen years or more. Always a fan of the way he drives with his aggression. He kind of reminds me of a younger Billy Cleveland, I think, with that such talent, the aggression there when needed. Matt Johnson has kind of arrived on the X30 Masters scene, and I think we're going to see him for the next 10 to 15 years kicking some ass and winning races. He had a great run, as you said. Renato David always in there. He ends up in third. Billy Cleveland and Scott Saunders fourth and fifth when we came around to the podium, but both those drivers getting some penalties for pushback and for blocking. That moves Laurent Tumardin on the Techno up into fourth spot. Luis Schiavo rounds out the top 5 in X30 Master. But again, Kip Foster joining that 3-time winner club. There's not a lot of drivers who have won 3. Only one has won 4. Every year, though, we had another 3-time winner, a couple of them, and that's going to open up for another 4-timer coming soon.
Technically, he's crossed the line 5 times as the winner.
5 times. That's true. That's yes. Yeah, on track. Yeah, a couple of technical DQs, but yeah, really, he's taken the checkered flag. Kip Foster has 5 times, which is wild. No doubt about it. David, let's cap off with Pro Shifter. It was the last race of the day, and interesting. With the flip we had with Kaufman, and we pushed the time, got pushed back. We ended up having to stop and have a break before we wrapped up the last couple of classes. How did you like Pro Shifter on Super Sunday under the lights?
I think we need to have KZ, Pro Shifter, and X30 Senior, all 3 under the lights on Sunday. I think being back at the Rio under the lights with the strip in the background, I mean, the visual doesn't get any better than that.
I agree. It's the ambiance of that race and everybody still being super psyched up. And it was just, man, it was, we've never done it, right? We've always tried to be done before the sunset hits. That was always the key. Schedule it correctly. We're trying to make sure for cameras and for video that the lighting is good enough. Man, the lighting was so badass under the lights with the darkness. Everybody going to the clear visor. As they came out of the final corner down the straightaway, the green light camera picked it up. Billy Musgrave, you could see right into his eyes as he rolled through turn 12. The visuals, the TV, the coverage of Pro Shifter, probably the best all weekend long, in my opinion.
Well, I think as we saw Saturday during the practicing, the walkthrough of the production,
yep,
we saw that night racing kind of stood out a little bit better than in a day race. So, maybe that might sway Supercarts USA to maybe move some of these main events into the afternoon, early evening positions. Because again, I mean, we're all going to be there Sunday night anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What's a couple hours a little bit later? Maybe start the day a little bit later instead of everybody getting on track at 8 in the morning. Maybe we delay it till 9 or 10.
Yep.
So I really think that might be a good move for Supercarts USA. We'll just have to wait, 11 months to see.
Yeah, I don't think it changes so much the weekend. Everybody was, the after party at the Voodoo Lounge, which, we're back at the Rio, everybody's up at the Voodoo Lounge for the after party. Always a great time. You're still waiting. Like nothing really gets rolling there until 11 o'clock at night anyway. So I think it's definitely an option. I think it's definitely something they'll need to look at. But let's talk about the race itself. Bottom line is another 3-time winner now. Billy Musgrave, David, just flat dominates the 25-lap final. Back-to-back jacks and Pro Shifter at the Supernats, matching that record of Danny Formal, who won in 15 and 16. You throw in Musgrave's 2012 win over Sabre Cook and in the S2 category. And, man, 3-time winner Billy Musgrave, just what a dominant year in terms of Pro Kart Challenge, Lancaster, Supernats for Billy Musgrave.
Well, definitely with the victory, that pretty much locked him up for our EKN driver rankings in the stock moto #1 position. So,
yep.
Definitely Billy will be part of the Bell Athlete program in 2019. So it'll be cool to see him wearing the Bell helmet. But again, yeah, it's just, obviously there's the one blemish. Musgrave obviously I think he would trade in the Supernats win for a Pro Tour title.
Yeah, probably.
I believe that because the way he felt after Newcastle, and that's I think kind of determined it kind of drove him into the Lancaster victory that he did, and then of course obviously the win here in Vegas.
Yeah, you look at the Pro Tour, right? The SKUSA Pro Tour champion AJ Myers right there all week long as well. His Supernats debut running the Mad Croc from Mad Old Nut Racing, and AJ debuted for them at the streets of Lancaster, but it got a better feel for the Mad Croc. They got her dialed in, and he was in the hunt the whole time. He ends up finishing second at the Supernats. 4th straight podium for New Zealand's Matt Hamilton. David, over the years that we've been covering the Supernats and Lancaster as well, Matt Hamilton, just such a talent. Great to have him up here, of course, running with the Luminos. 4th straight podium in the Pro Shifter class. Isn't that, to me, that's just amazing. Tremendous.
It is, considering the fact that he's a master champion.
Yes.
And then he goes down this past week and was in contention to win the DD2 master title down there in Brazil. So Hamilton is obviously a shoe, one of the best around the world. And then not only does the 4 straight podiums at the Supernats prove that, but the performance he had down in Brazil.
Speaking of down in Brazil, Danny Formal ends up with a 2nd place, I believe, down in Brazil for the Rotax Grand Final. Ends up 4th after recovering from a pretty tough qualifying run here in the Pro Shifter class of the Supernats. Very similar to Matt Hamilton, his 4th podium in 5 years, 2 of them being victories. Danny Formal ends up in 4th. Kyle Wick, as we said, double duty, double podium on the week as he gets another 5th place finish.
Yeah, great. Another great performance by Wick. Just not quite enough to be in the hunt for the victory, but anytime you land on the podium twice, let alone in the same day, it's pretty stout.
Folks, that wraps up our Race Report, episode number 37 of the EKN Debrief. We've blasted well past the hour mark, so this is going to end up being probably about a 90-minute show. We thank you for tuning into the EKN Radio Network. We appreciate it. Let's wrap things up as we always do. Have a look at the EKN Trackside Live race calendar. This one presented by the Rawlson Performance Group. At the Rawlson Performance Group, we strive for ultimate success. We're more than just an arrive and drive race team with countless wins on the national and regional level. Our focus is on complete driver development, and that's where the success is fueled. We combine one-on-one coaching, on-track instruction, and intensive data debriefing with unparalleled kart and engine prep. Our program will help you raise your game, and we'll take you to the next level. If that's your goal, RPG needs to be your next move. So, David, we're really resetting the EKN Trackside Live race calendar because we capped off the year already. Of course, our EKN Trackside Live Tour, 24 events in 2018, all brought to you by Cooper Tire. We do thank the good folks at Cooper Tire for partnering with us here in 18. It's always the question, Dave, is Daytona Kart Week for WK, is it part of 18? Is it part of 19? We'll call it part of 19, essentially. December 28, 29, 30. David, you're heading back down to Daytona International Speedway for WKA Kart Week.
I'm really just looking forward to warm weather again because this cold weather sucks. It's only been 2 weeks and I'm already done with it.
I bet.
But again, Daytona can be cold because we've been there where it's 40 degrees and miserable. I mean, it could be sunny and 40, but it's still miserable. I would much rather it be 80 and sunny.
We're going to give you our next 4 events on the EKN Trackside Live Tour. And again, all these events you'll be able to pick up on the EKN page, ekartingnews.com/live. That's where we'll have our live coverage. And then, of course, we'll take the audio from those. David will package them up, and we'll have that on the EKN Radio Network in the week following the event. A couple weeks after that, David and I are heading down to AMR Homestead Miami Motorplex, presented by MG Tires, for the first round of the SuperKarts USA Winter Series, January 11th, 12th, and 13th. David, back down to Homestead, and the debut of the Miami SSE 175cc shifter engine. It's here. Scoos is going all in. It'll be interesting to see how that thing races.
It'll be a new look regarding class structure, obviously, because they debuted the three shifter master classes. So that'll be interesting. It's going to be a new look kind of format for that. But again, back to Homestead for the first of 2 weekends down there.
The second weekend of the Winter Series, I'll actually be by myself. David and I are going to go double duty, split duty rather. He'll be on the West Coast at the Challenge of the Americas opener at Cal Speed Karting Center in Fontana. That's February 8th, 9th, and 10th. It'll be a double weekend in terms of coverage. We'll have 2 options of how you can tune in. We'll actually be, I'll be at the second rounds of the SCUSA Winter Series, back to Miami Homestead again, where they will run counterclockwise. They're going to have 2 different directions for the SuperKarts USA Winter Series. But, David, you'll be back out to start off a new season of Challenge of the Americas Rock Cup racing. Yeah,
a bit of a later start. Typically, they begin in January, but Andy Seisman has shifted a little bit, so he's going February, March, April this year. But we're starting it out in Cal Speed Karting Center in Fontana, California. So first time, I think, I think that the Cal Speed will be the opening location for the series.
Agreed, and it will be your first In-N-Out Burger of the 2019 season.
Burger Tour 2019.
Burger Tour 2019. All right, David, that's it for the EKN Trackside Live race calendar, brought to you by the Rawlson Performance Group. Let's cap off this debrief with a bit of a wrap-up. You've got 4 things down in your notes. Let's talk a little bit about the Constructors' Championship breakdown. Which manufacturers were able to score victories in Las Vegas this year?
Well, as we talked about earlier, Nitro Kart picked up their first ever Super Nationals victory, actually picking up 2. So they were among the best, along with Tony Kart actually picking up 2 wins on the Super Sunday as well. Cosmic, Kart Republic, CRG, Parolin, KF, another first winner at the Super Nats, and Illuminos, all with 1 victory. So good diverse of chassis brands that won on Super Sunday in the 10 categories that we had.
Yeah, pretty good cross-section of the manufacturers able to taste victory at the biggest race of the year, the SCUSA Super Nationals. Again, Rob Howden alongside David Cole, wrapping up this debrief. All right, David, this is, you know what? I'm going to give you the floor. You can put the beat down in terms of the EKN predictions contest. I thought I was going to be good. I came out of the box with an X30 Junior. I called Fairbairn's win. Didn't go well for me after that.
Not bad. I will say, hey, if you want to look at overall top 5 on our predictions, I had 40%, you had 38%. So overall, pretty good for both. Typically, I'd like to be over 50%, but overall, at least we were pretty similar.
Sure.
Again, and then as you said, you picked one winner, correct? You picked Jeremy Fairbairn. The other one was Kip Foster in X30 Master. Yep. I myself picked Ben Mayer in Micro and Billy Musgrave in Pro Shifter. So those were my 2 correct winners that we selected.
You rocked Master Shifter, though. You didn't get the winner, but all 5, your top 5 you picked, the podium you picked, all ended up being on the podium. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I had all 5 on the podium, not in the correct positions, but still all 5. So that gave me some bonus points. On the flip side, neither of us picked anybody in X30 Senior, so we scored 0 points for that category, and then we scored identical in KZ with our only selection being Margin Kremers in second. We both got that correct.
So, listen, X30 Senior, I think we both had Travis Anuto in there. He ends up being off the podium because if it wasn't for that last lap, we would have got at least something, right?
We would have had a bunch. I think one of us had to have Brooks in there. I had Jarzakrak in there. He was in the hunt till that turn 6 crap happened. Yep. Jake Craig was another one that was right there. Could have been in there, but just not there close enough. So I think the Lupians kind of screwed everything up because neither of us had the Lupians in there. And then of course Ben Cooper, because Ben Cooper, if we would have known his training regimen, we probably would have picked him to win.
Potentially, and we probably did one of us not pick Sam Lupien, national number 2 in the Pro Tour? I'm surprised that we wouldn't have picked Samuel.
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever. let's get off of this. Done.
No. So we have the points total now. I waited till the end. So the points.
All
so
right.
when you look at all that, the amount of you get points for correct position, or just 1 point for having them in the top 5, or as I said in Master Shifter, I got bonus points for having all 5 in there. I had a lot of bonus points. You didn't have very many bonus points, but when you break down the points, I had 52 points. You had 33. It was kind of a landslide. It was, wow. It was kind of like the Bears beating the Bills type deal a little bit,
Or you mean kind of like Ohio State beating Michigan? Yes.
You're lucky I can't. No, I'm not going to.
All right. Well, congratulations. Congratulations, David. Good job. Some good selections. Let's cap things off. Last couple of bits. Bottom line, David, great to be back at the Rio. It just felt like home. To be honest, we love our food. Some better restaurant selections, better opportunities to eat as opposed to what it was at the Westgate. It's kind of tough to get into a restaurant, and there weren't as many options. Smash Burger was great. I had a bunch of great noodles at the one place. We ate at the Mexican. We ate at Guy Fieri's a couple times, which was great. The coverage from Greenlight TV on Supercars USA's Facebook page, man, dude, the coverage was tremendous. The numbers we were getting on the shares. Keep sharing those videos, folks. Get out there, pick the one, share it, comment. That's the way to keep expanding the coverage. But dude, the atmosphere, the coverage, awesome stuff.
It was the Super Sunday with the Greenlight production that highlighted everything. Like you said, just being back at the Rio just kind of made everybody feel warm and fuzzy inside. It was just good all the way around.
Yeah, big thumbs up for sure. Again, we're less than a year away from Super Nationals number 23, November 24th, I believe is Super Sunday. Folks, that wraps it up. We're back in the office. We're back rocking. 2019 season just around the corner. As David said, he heads down to Daytona in just over 3 weeks' time for WKA Daytona Kart Week. We'll have lots more information on the full EKN Trackside Live Tour for 2019. We're wrapping up the races that we're going to be attending. We're probably going to be up there around 20 to 24 again. A lot of races to hit. But again, we thank you so much for listening to the EKN Radio Network. If you have not downloaded the app, do so. Get it on your phone. So much more content. My goal is to double our content from 2018 to 2019. Of course, I started the new Book It podcast. There's going to be at least a couple more podcasts that we're going to start, new ones. So much more to come. Download it. Make sure you get the radio network. Obviously, subscribe to the podcast as well, so it goes right to your phone on iTunes or Google Play. David, last words?
You're great, Super Nats. As you said, we didn't party as hard as we typically do, so we waited till Super Sunday. That was great. I think that, it's kind of like a race. You just got to pace yourself, and it was great.
That's it.
On-track stuff was amazing. Off-track stuff, always amazing. So just another win-win all around. Can't wait to be back at the Rio in November next year.
Again, big thank you to all those that supported the EKN Trackside Live broadcast. Of course, Supercarts USA first and foremost, and Cooper Tire. Alan Rudolph Racing Academy was our title sponsor. We want to thank Acceleration Kart Racing for Super Sunday again. Courtney Concepts and Illuminos were our sponsors for Saturday and Friday. And a big thank you to Fullerton USA, Mad Old Nut Racing, Allison Racing Engines, and Kart Sport North America and Kart Republic. The support of the industry is what allows us to do what we do here at EKN. And again, those of you tune in and listen to our content and comment, we really appreciate it. Again, the best thing you can do to explode our sport in terms of getting new people into it is to share on social media. Let people know about our passion. Let people know about your passion. And we do thank you so much again for joining us here. Debrief number 37. It's been a great year on the EKN Radio Network. A lot more to come. I've got a bunch of great interviews lined up, and we'll have those for you in the coming weeks. We want you to enjoy your holidays, but folks, we're back at it once again. Post-Super Nats as we look forward to 2019. On behalf of David Cole, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.